The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, and welcome to today's webinar, Using Facebook to Grow Your Farm Business. My name is Margot Hale, and I'm the Southeast Regional Director at the National Center for Appropriate Technology, more commonly known as NCAT. NCAT is a national nonprofit organization with 6 regional offices across the country. We work on issues pertaining to sustainable agriculture, sustainable energy, and sustainable communities. Today's webinar will teach you how to set up and manage a Facebook page to help grow your farm business. It will cover the basics of setting up a farm Facebook page from scratch, tips for creating content for your page, engaging with customers, leveraging Facebook advertising, and tools for managing multiple accounts and scheduling posts. NCAT Agriculture Specialist Luke Freeman and Lauren Manning, partner at Ozark Pasture Beef, will be sharing with us today. This webinar is being broadcast by NCAT, presented in partnership with the University of Arkansas Division of Agriculture, University of Arkansas Poultry Science, and USDA-ARS Poultry Production and Product Safety Unit, and is funded by a grant from USDA's Small and Medium-Sized Farms Grant. Today's presentation will be about an hour long, and we'll follow it up with time for questions from you folks who are attending. As you're listening, you can type in any questions you might have in the questions box on your screen. I'll compile them and have Luke and Lauren answer as many as we have time for following their presentation. Please don't hesitate to ask questions during the webinar. Chances are we won't be able to get to all of them, but Luke, Lauren, or other NCAT Sustainable Ag experts will get back to you about your questions via email in the days to come. And the next hour or so isn't the only chance for you to ask questions. The webinar is being recorded and will be available on NCAT's ATRA webpage, www.atra.ncat.org. There's a feature on the page, Ask an Ag Expert, where you can send us emails with any questions you may have. Or you might want to call our Sustainable Ag helpline number, 800-346-9140. We welcome your questions on any sustainable ag subject, not just today's webinar. And it's worth mentioning that it's a free service. If you didn't get that phone number and web address, don't worry, we'll have it on screen at the end of the webinar. Also, before we begin, I just want to remind our viewers to take a few minutes to complete the survey for today's webinar. When the webinar is over and you sign out, you'll get the survey right away. The survey will help us improve our webinars in the future, and we appreciate your taking part in it. A bit about today's presenters. Luke is a horticulture specialist for NCAT, where he assists growers and leads trainings on fruit and vegetable production, marketing, and food safety. Luke and his wife Natalie own a small farm in Fayetteville, Arkansas, and they use social media extensively to share their story and communicate with customers. They raise eggs, vegetables, and cut flowers on their farm, which they market out of their general store in town. Lauren Manning is an agricultural law professor at the University of Arkansas and a partner at Ozark Pasture Beef, where she manages their social media marketing. Ozark Pasture Beef raises grass-fed beef, lamb, and goat, which they direct market to consumers and restaurants throughout Northwest Arkansas. I will now turn things over to Luke.
Thanks, Margot. We can go to the next slide. So to give you an outline of the presentation today, we're going to start off giving you an introduction to Facebook, talking about the platform and how it works. Then we're going to spend some time talking about how to set up a farm profile. We'll talk about engaging with users on Facebook, boosting posts and advertising on Facebook, selling products on Facebook, and then lastly, some tools for managing your social media accounts. And for those of you who missed our first webinar, which was on an overview of social media marketing tools for your farm business, you can find that at our ATRA website, atra.ncat.org/video, which is where this webinar is going to be posted once it's been recorded. We're going to mention our workbook, How to Use Social Media for Your Farm Business, throughout this webinar. And this workbook was one of the outputs of the USDA grant that we're working on in collaboration with U of A Poultry Science and USDA-ARS. So you'll see us mention this workbook and provide the URL for download later on in this webinar. Next slide. So for those of you who weren't able to tune into the webinar we did previously, just want to give you an introduction about myself. I'm a horticulture specialist with NCAT, and then I also own a small farm called Freckled Hen Farm with my wife Natalie, and our farm is located right outside of Fayetteville, Arkansas, in Northwest Arkansas. We sell eggs and produce and cut flowers from our farm at our general store, which is located in Fayetteville, and also a local grocery store carries our eggs. And social media, especially Facebook and Instagram, have played a huge role in our ability to grow our farm, to grow our customer base, and to market our products locally. Next slide. So why use Facebook? For those of you who are considering getting started with social media for your farm, we would definitely recommend you get started with Facebook. The main reason is it's the #1 social media platform. 68% of all US adults are on Facebook, so that's a huge audience right there for you to be able to market to. Most Facebook users are on the platform daily and spend a lot of time on the site. So that's a lot of opportunity for them to scroll past your photos, to see images of your farm, to learn about your farm, learn about your story, and become loyal customers. It's an opportunity for free or cheap advertising for your farm. To begin with, getting started, posting your info on Facebook, creating a farm business page on Facebook, it's free to get started. And then we're going to talk about advertising tools on Facebook, which are really affordable advertising options for your farm. Customers often use Facebook to search for local farms. Maybe they're looking for a U-pick blueberry farm to take their families to, so they use Facebook to search blueberry farm in their area. So this is a great way for you to be there on Facebook when customers are searching for farms like yours, and just increase the chance that customers are going to come across your farm. On Facebook, you can also really easily develop customer loyalty. So by your customers following you on Facebook and seeing images and videos you're posting of your farm animals, your family, they can really start to develop emotional connections, ties to your farm, this sense of loyalty to your farm, to your brand, and a desire to continue to support you and continue to shop from you. So Facebook can be really important in developing that customer loyalty. It's also a great way to just get your farm info on the internet, especially if you don't have a website set up for your farm. Facebook is a great first step in getting your contact info online. Being able to post your farm address, your business phone number, your email address, and have a way for people to find out about you and get in touch with you. And Facebook makes targeted advertising easy, and we're going to spend a significant portion of this webinar talking about targeted advertising through Facebook. Next slide. So who's on Facebook? This is really important when you're thinking about who you're marketing to when you create a farm profile on Facebook. So as I mentioned, 68% of American adults are on Facebook, but 74% of American women actually use the platform. So more women are on Facebook than men. And that actually plays to your advantage because your target demographic for your marketing is going to be women, because women more often than not are the ones who are purchasing groceries and farm products. Slightly more urban and suburban audiences are on Facebook. So if you're marketing to a rural audience, a rural customer base, you're not going to have as much success on Facebook as you would if you were marketing to a suburban or urban audience. You'll notice when you look at demographics, there's a higher usage rate in that 18 to 49-year-old age groups. And the most common demographic on Facebook is women ages 25 to 34. So when you're creating your content and posting on Facebook, it's important to keep this in mind and create content that women who are 25 to 34 years old will find relevant, will find appealing. Next slide. So what's the downside? I'm talking a lot about the upside of Facebook, and there's a downside to everything. So what's the downside to having a farm profile on Facebook? Well, the biggest downside is going to be it takes time. And as a farmer, your time is one of your most valuable resources. So when you're getting started on Facebook, you definitely want to make sure to budget time every day or time every other day to maintain your page, create content, post on your Facebook page. And I would say getting started, budget 30 to 60 minutes per day. One thing to note is that a bad Facebook page or an incomplete Facebook page is worse than having no Facebook page at all. So, if you're just getting started, you definitely want to make sure that you can follow through, complete all the steps, complete your Facebook profile, and keep up with it before you get started, so you don't end up with an incomplete Facebook page that gives a poor impression of your farm. Because for a lot of potential customers, your Facebook page might be the first impression they have of your farm. So you want to make a really good impression. A smartphone is really helpful when it comes to managing a farm Facebook. Really helps to have a device in your pocket that you can take photos on, shoot videos on, also use it to respond to customer comments, respond to messages, post from your phone. It is possible to manage a farm Facebook page from a desktop computer, but having a smartphone makes it a lot easier and allows you to continue to post and respond when you're on the fly, when you're on the go. Maybe when you're at the farmer's market and it's slow and you can be creating a post on Facebook. You do need good writing, photography, and people skills to be successful on Facebook. So if these aren't skills in your skill set, maybe think of someone else in your family or someone else who works on the farm who has these skills and would be well suited to managing your farm Facebook page. You also need to be the kind of person who's able to set limits. Facebook can be very time consuming, so you definitely need to be able to set limits in terms of how much time you're spending on the platform so it doesn't rob time for other important aspects from your business. And then, as I mentioned before, you might need to pay a little bit of money for targeted advertising to help people see your content. And we'll talk more about that later. Next slide. So how does Facebook work? This is really important to understand. It really all boils down to the algorithm, which when it comes to Facebook refers to the formula that determines what users see in their feed. So just because you have followers who've liked your farm page on Facebook and are following your farm, it doesn't mean that they're going to see every post that you post on your farm page. There have been a lot of changes in the way that Facebook manages the algorithm. Just this year, they slightly changed the algorithm to prioritize content from friends and family. And what that did is it made it harder for businesses, like farm businesses, to reach users. The bottom line for Facebook is they want businesses to pay to get views, but there are some workarounds. Next slide. So some ways that you can kind of organically get your posts out there, get your post in front of more viewers, is creating content that elicits engagement. And so when it comes to engagement in Facebook, what I'm talking about are comments from users on your post, active reactions. So these are any of those reactions other than the standard like. So that would be the love, the heart, the wow face, the sad face. If users are sharing your posts and then their friends are engaging with that shared post, that's great engagement. And then Facebook Live video, is another way to help more people see your content. So Facebook's actually prioritizing live video. So if you're doing live video on your farm, more people are going to see that than if you just post a photo on your farm page. And so these are some ways to increase the chance that more people are going to see your posts, even without paying to boost them. But later on in the webinar, I'll talk about advertising and paying for boosts. And now I'll hand it over to Lauren. Next slide.
Thanks, Luke. Hi, everybody. I'm Lauren Manning. I'm a partner at Ozark Pasture Beef. I also teach a couple different agricultural law classes at the University of Arkansas. And I'm a beginning farmer. I started farming about 3 years ago and now raise cattle, sheep, and goats. And one of the things that I take care of for our farm business is social media. And I didn't have much experience with social media when we first started out, so I've kind of learned as I went, but I understand the perspective of folks who may not immediately be drawn to social media or want to do a lot with social media, but I can say it is important, as Luke mentioned. It's a really useful tool for a local farm business. Next slide. So I'm going to talk first a little bit about why you should set up a Facebook business page. Facebook has a personal page that anyone can go set up for themselves. A lot of you probably already have a Facebook account that's for you personally. And there's an option in Facebook to set up a business page. And some people ask, well, why do I need to go through the trouble and the hassle of setting up a business page when I already have my personal page? First of all, it's free. It's not going to cost you anything to set up a business page. And as I'll show you in a few slides, it's really simple and straightforward to get one set up. It's more professional. It's going to make it look like more of an official business outlet as opposed to you posting about your farm from your personal page. If you're concerned about having your personal and professional life blurred together, it's a great way to have a presence on Facebook for your farm, but to still keep your personal life separate. If you don't like posting a lot of pictures of your kids or sharing a lot of aspects of your personal life with your potential farm customers, you can keep your personal Facebook page private, but still have your business page set up and open to the public. There's lots of useful statistics that the Facebook business page will show you about who comes to your page, how often, who's clicking on what posts, and there's lots of useful tools to help people go to your website and drive more business. It also increases your exposure. For a personal Facebook page, someone has to send you a friend request, as you probably know, and you have to approve that. Well, with a business page, anybody can follow your page and like your page without you having to respond to that action. So it makes it really easy for people to start following you and seeing things that you post in their newsfeed. Next slide. It's going to drive more traffic to your website if you do have one set up. If you put your business page together in a way that encourages people to click on the button at the top of the business page that takes them to your website, it's a really easy way to get folks to go to your website if you have one. If you don't have a website, it's totally okay, and this business page is often a really good placeholder for a website or in lieu of a website. There's an area for customer reviews. People can give you, a 1 to 5 star rating and leave a comment. This is something that's been useful for us. We love it when people tell us what cuts of meat they like or how they prepared something. Or chef clients in the area go and post and say, oh, we use their meat, we love it. It's also easily accessible on a cell phone, tablet, or computer. If you have just a straight website, it can be a little difficult to make modifications to your website text just from your cell phone on the go, whereas there's a specific app you can actually get to help manage your business page, which is really user-friendly. If you want to start increasing your brand awareness, if you've got a great logo, you're at the farmer's market, you're selling to restaurants, something like that, the Facebook page is a really great way to bolster your branding and help people have more brand awareness. And finally, something that I think we've all enjoyed the most at Ozark Pasture Beef about it is that any one of us can become an admin for the business page and respond to comments, respond to messages, post new things. So it's not just for one person to control. You can have several different people given administrator privileges, and this makes it actually really easy for us to kind of block and tackle on busy days when we get a ton of messages. It makes sure we can respond to them in a really quick manner, and we can also see what responses each other is given. So there's no duplicate messages to people. It's really streamlined. Next slide. So to set up a Facebook business page, there's really only a few pieces of information that you need. And you probably already have a lot of these things or just know them off the top of your head. The first thing is a name for your page. And if you have a farm name, that's obviously what you should probably use. If you don't have a farm name, you can use your family name. Just think of something unique and distinct to you. Then you're going to want to have a short description about your business. And what we use is the following: a partnership of family farms raising 100% grass-fed, pasture-raised beef, lamb, and goat in Northwest Arkansas. Something really short and sweet. Who are you? What do you raise? And where do you sell it? Then next, a profile photo. And this is going to be that very small avatar-sized photo that shows up everywhere on Facebook that you post. So you're going to want something that looks good in a very small format. If you have a logo, that's usually a good thing to use, as long as it's not too intricate and complicated. Really complicated logos at small scale just start to look messy, and it can be hard to identify what that logo is. If you're getting a logo made, that's something to keep in mind. Make sure it's a logo that will look good at a small resolution. Then you'll need a cover photo, and this is that big photo in the background at the top of a Facebook page, a profile page. Usually a nice picture of your farm or a nice shot of your farm product, something like that works nicely. And then finally, your contact information and business hours. Next slide. So I'm going to walk you through a few slides on how you set up this business page for folks who are maybe a little unfamiliar with navigating Facebook. There's many different ways to get to the create a business page menu, but from your personal page, and this is just a dummy Facebook profile I set up, there's a create page button at the right. You might also see something about pages in the left-hand menu of Facebook. Anywhere you see the word pages, click on it and it will probably get you where you need to go. Next slide. It's going to take you to a menu of options. There's several different kinds of pages that you can create for a business, as you can see here. You can create everything from a brand or product to a community cause to a band. But what we think works best, or what we've seen work best, is local business or place. So click on that option. Next slide. It's going to ask you very straightforward information, such as your farm name, what type of business you are, and your address and your phone number. And that will pretty much get you set up with the basics. Next slide. Then it asks you for your profile picture. So have that already uploaded and saved somewhere that's easy to find. Next slide. Same thing with a cover photo here. And I should mention for the cover photo, this is a bit of a larger image. So something that's high resolution and really crisp is going to be important here. Otherwise, it's going to look really blurry. Next slide. Then after you upload your cover photo, it takes you right to your business page. So it's pretty quick and painless to get this set up. But there's a few more things that you're going to want to do before you stop this setting up process. Because I think, as Luke mentioned, the only thing worse than having no social media is having really poorly set up social media. If you're a consumer and you're looking for local farms and you see a Facebook page that's only halfway set up, there's no description about the business, there's not really any appearance that someone maintains or uses this Facebook page, it might not really be advantageous to you. They might assume that you're not in business anymore, that you don't want people contacting them. So it's important to do a few more steps. And the first one I'd suggest is adding a short description. And it's highlighted in that red circle down there. Facebook does a really great job after you set up a business page of giving you suggestions on more things you can do to make your page complete. So I usually just go straight through that list. But if you're short on time, one of the best things to do is the description. Next page. The description has to be really short, and you're limited, I think, to about 200 to 300 characters in what you can say about your farm. And again, the three main highlights is who are you, what do you produce, and where can people find you. So an example here is at Boots to Roots Farm, we proudly provide a wide range of vegetables and pasture-raised eggs to consumers throughout Northwest Arkansas. Next slide. After you do that, there's one more thing I'd suggest you cover, and that's creating a username for your page. Whenever you create a new profile, whether it's a personal profile or business page, Facebook assigns a username, and the username Facebook assigns is often very complicated. It's lots of numbers or symbols and not something that's easy for people off the top of their head to remember. The second reason this is important is because if people want to tag you in other posts, they need to know what your username is. So having a very easy, intuitive username makes it even more simple for people to find you or to tag you in other posts. Next slide. The best username you can use is your farm name, but if that name has already been taken, don't worry, there's really easy ways to still distinguish yourself. Still use your farm name, but maybe throw your state or your city or something unique about you behind it. So if Boots to Roots Farm had already been taken, I would just add AR at the end, Boots to Roots Farm, Arkansas. So that way it's an even stronger username because it tells people that we're the Boots to Roots Farm that's located here in Arkansas, as opposed to whoever else has this username somewhere else. Next slide. So I suggest that you start posting as soon as you have your business page set up. Again, people are going to come to your page and they're going to want to see that somebody is actually sitting on the other end, posting things, responding to messages, waiting for people to contact them. And in that workbook Luke mentioned, there's really great information on how to get your first few posts scheduled and set up. And that book also has over 20 ideas on content category. If you're someone who thinks, I don't know what to post on social media, what do I say? That workbook is going to be perfect for you because there's endless brainstorming ideas on things that you can post in a really manageable way. So the 3 posts I suggest people do first are pretty straightforward. The first one is introduce yourself and your farm. The second post is describe your operation. And the third is introduce your products and where they can be purchased. And you don't have to sit down and do these all at once. You can do one day, one the next day, or later in the week and space them out. But that way you start generating content and have a nice posting schedule. So here's an example from the workbook about a sample post that you can do to introduce yourself on your business page. At Daisy Meadows Creamery, we have a herd of 30 Nubian dwarf goats that provide the milk for our cheeses. My husband and I met during college and are both animal science majors. It was always our dream to start this farm, but we both worked various desk jobs before deciding to take the leap. We hope to expand the goat herd in the next few years and to start selling our products in restaurants and grocery stores throughout the entire state. We have a few wonderful university students who help out on the farm during the weekends. Very nice, short and sweet overview, and it shares a little bit about this couple, and that really helps create a human connection. In the digital shopping world, there's countless different companies and businesses trying to get consumers' attention, and for farm businesses especially, if you can draw that human connection and personalize yourself a little bit, it tends to make consumers a little bit more prone to buying your products or coming and finding you at the farmer's market. Next slide. So again, here's the link for that workbook. We'll give you a few seconds to jot that down. We'll show this slide at the end too, but the workbook has a lot of really great content in terms of how to set up a Facebook business page. It has many screenshots that will actually walk you through the process a little more in-depthly. And again, as I mentioned, there's lots of tools in the workbook for setting up content. What do I post about? How often should I post? And even some nice calendars that you can print out to plan out when you're going to post. Next slide. So once you have your Facebook business page set up, you've got a few posts going, you're feeling a little bit more comfortable, it's time to start engaging with other people on Facebook. And as Luke mentioned with the algorithm, the more you use Facebook, the more Facebook is going to show the things that you post to other people. So it's important that you spend at least a few minutes every once in a while liking other people's posts, commenting on other people's posts, tagging other restaurants or users on your own business page posts. I will say, first of all, make sure you have Facebook Messenger turned on. There is an option to switch off Messenger, and in some cases that's the default for some folks. So make sure that on your business page you are able to receive messages. We get more messages from Facebook than we do posts on our Facebook page or on Instagram. People message us on Facebook all the time asking about our newsletter or where they can order or even placing orders through Facebook Messenger. So it's really easy to engage with other people. Don't feel like it's going to be this burdensome thing where you have to write long messages to folks. It can really just be as simple as tagging or making a short little comment. Next slide. We do this quite a bit on our Facebook page. We sell to a lot of local restaurants, and of course, restaurants make your food look absolutely beautiful. And we've had some of our restaurant clients for quite some time, and they've been great about sending photos of our food or of our entrees to us when they prepare them, or posting about us. And if that restaurant posts about you and tags you in their Facebook page, it's going to boost the amount of times people see your business page. So the example on the left is from Farmer's Table Cafe. They used some of our beef in a Reuben sandwich, and that was a really popular post. And then on the right, we went to a culinary school that's been using some of our beef, and they gave us a tour. And so we tagged both these people in these posts. And now anyone who also follows this restaurant or who follows this culinary school will also see our name in our account, and they'll be able to click on that and think, oh, who's this local farmer providing beef? I'd love to buy some. It's a really easy way to draw people to your page. Next slide.
All right, so this is Luke here again, and I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about advertising on Facebook. So to get started, there are a few helpful apps if you're using a smartphone to manage your Facebook page. The Facebook Page Manager app, the one with the flag on it, it's designed for business pages, and it can help you post and respond to comments and view your analytics. So that's a really helpful app. There's also a Facebook Ads app, specifically for people who are paying for ads and boosting posts on Facebook. So that would be one I would also recommend that you download and use if you're paying for advertising. So getting started talking about advertising, how does it work? So Facebook kind of splits up their paid advertising into two categories. You have boosted posts, and you also have advertisements or promotions, as Facebook calls them. So if you can see in the screenshot that I posted from my iPhone, in the bottom right-hand corner of that screenshot, it says Boost Post. So that'll show up when you're looking at your farm's Facebook page and you have a post. So for example, here I have the video I posted about our hens on pasture. So I post that video, and then right under it, there's that button that says Boost Post. And if I click that, that'll allow me to start paying to essentially boost or increase the views of that post. There's also the promote button in the top right corner of the screenshot, and that allows you to actually create an ad, create a promotion, which will show up in other people's feed. So how much money should you spend? It's really up to you. You set your budget. The only thing is, the more money you spend, the more views you're going to get. And I would suggest you start off with as little as $5 for a campaign. It could be a week-long campaign. You spend $5 on it. You see what happens. What content should you boost? I would encourage you to focus on the content that is actually going to give you a direct return on investment. So content that's going to lead to a sale, or it's going to lead to acquiring new customers who are then going to make purchases from your farm. So it could be boosting a post that's about an upcoming event or a farmer's market where you're selling at, to try to get more people to come to that event and buy from you. It could be a post about a product, maybe a new product you have. You want to tell your customers about. You could boost that post. You might even boost a post that's talking about your email newsletter. If you do an email newsletter, you could boost a post that's encouraging people to sign up for the email newsletter, and it's talking about all the things you discuss in the email newsletter, the recipes you talk about, the farm updates, the seasonal products you highlight. Boosting a post that encourages email newsletter signups would also be worthwhile. Next slide. So when you choose to either boost a post or create a promotion, you're going to have to select a target audience. And this is something that Facebook is really good at, but you need to know how to navigate this. You're going to need to identify your ideal customer. And Facebook allows you to select customers based on, or select an audience based on location, age, gender, and interests. So what you can see in the screenshot I posted from my iPhone, when I go to create a promotion, it pins the location of my farm, and then I choose the radius from my farm location in terms of the geographic area of my audience. So in this case, I chose 15 miles. So it draws a 15-mile radius circle around my farm, and that's where it targets. Then I choose the age of my target audience. And in this case, I'm choosing ages 24 to 45. Then I choose a gender. You can choose all men or women. In almost all cases, I'm going to recommend you choose women. You can also choose interests of your audience. If you need to narrow down your audience, you could choose things like farmers market, gardening, local foods. In most cases, these three variables, the location, age, and gender, is going to narrow things down enough that you don't need to add interests. Next slide. So some stats that can kind of help you think about who your ideal customer is. There was a study at the San Luis Obispo Farmers Market in California, which found that 56% of farmers market customers were ages 25 to 54. So there's a good age group right there. 64% of farmers market customers were female. So as I mentioned before, I would recommend you target, female only for your audience. Reasons for shopping at the farmers market. Most people indicated that they were shopping at the farmers market because of product quality. So this is something that you can really focus on in your posts that you're boosting about your farm products, is talking about the quality, talking about how the flavor is so much better than anything they can find at a grocery store. It's hundreds of miles fresher. Really focusing on how superior the quality of your product is compared to other options, because that's what most customers who shop at farmers markets are looking for. Also, another interesting tidbit is that most farmers market customers live 6 to 17 miles from the market they shop at. So, remember, when you're creating a targeted ad, you choose the geographic location. Make sure that you're selecting an area that's, at most 17 miles, in radius from your market or your farm, because here it's showing that most customers are going to be clustered 6 to 17 miles away from the market where they're shopping. So you don't want to target customers who are farther out than that. Next slide. Okay, so now looking at creating a promotion or an ad on Facebook. When you go to create a promotion, it's going to ask you to choose your goal. And so, some options here are, your goal could be to simply advertise your farm, get more people to learn about your farm. Another goal could be to drive visitors to your website if you have a farm website. You could drive customers to your location. If you have a farm stand, a farm market, or maybe you do U-Pick, you could really have a goal for people to come visit your farm. Or a goal could be to just simply promote your Facebook page, increase the likes and followers of your page. So you'll need to choose one of these options. Once you do that, then you create the ad. And creating the ad on Facebook is as easy as selecting a photo and then writing some text. And you'll want to make sure the photo that you use for your ad is really stunning. It's eye-catching. This ad is going to show up in someone's news feed. And so you want the photo you use to be the kind of photo someone's going to pause on. They're going to, be inspired to read the text because the photo is stunning. And hopefully it'll elicit a reaction. Hopefully they'll click the link. They'll follow your farm. Whatever your goal is, you want the photo and the text to elicit that kind of response. And then once you do that, then you're going to set a budget. And as I mentioned, even starting off with $5 for a campaign, and you set the length of time for the campaign. So it could be $5 for a week to see how it does. And if it's working, you could always add more money. If it's not working, you can change things and then create a new campaign. Next slide. So how do you know if it's working? This is really important to know if you're actually getting a return on that investment. So Facebook Analytics, which Facebook calls Insights, is a way to tell whether or not you're getting that bang for your buck, whether or not you're seeing results. So in that Facebook Page Managers app, there's going to be a Page Insights tab where you can see for all of your posts, you can look at what the reach numbers are and what the engagement numbers are. So reach, that's passive. That's just telling you how many sets of eyeballs saw your post. The engagement number is really what you're looking for, and that's the active reaction, someone actively interacting with your post, either liking it, commenting, or sharing it. And this is really what you want. Next slide. So when it comes to paid ads, either boosted posts or promotions that you're creating and paying for, you can actually look at the cost per result for each of those ads. And you can access that either through that Ads Manager app or on a desktop computer or laptop. If you're looking at Facebook on your browser, there's an Ads Manager tab that you can access through the left-hand menu, which will get you here. And so as I mentioned, you want to look at that cost per result. And so what that does is that takes the amount you spent on your ad campaign and then divides it by the number of results. So it's actually, dollars per result, or results per dollar. So you can see here in the screenshot I posted, that top post, which is that we've got farm fresh veggies and eggs at the store. We had 26 engagements from that post. We spent $5, so that gave us 19 cents cost per result, so 19 cents per engagement. And in terms of interpreting that number and figuring out if that is worth it for you, a lot of this depends on how you see that engagement translate to farm sales. And this is where you need to think about the customer acquisition cost, CAC, which is a term used a lot in e-commerce, online sales, is thinking about what is the value of the customer. So, for every like or comment that we got on that post about, us having farm fresh veggies and eggs at the store, what's the likelihood that a customer is actually going to come into the store and buy from us? And so, we have to determine, is that 20 cents worth it? For our case, I felt like that was money well spent. We ended up selling the veggies and eggs we had at the store that week. So we could see a return on that. If you can look at the post right under that, which is talking about us offering eggs and vegetables online for online pre-order, we had 71 cents per post engagement. And so that amount's a little higher than I'm comfortable with. In that case, it makes me think, how could we make this ad better? What did we do wrong? Why are we not getting a better return on investment for that ad? Next slide. So now I want to talk briefly about selling products on Facebook. This is a fairly new feature on Facebook for business pages. And what it allows you to do is to actually post your farm products on your Facebook page so people can buy directly from your page. This isn't necessarily a great fit for every farm. You really need to think about, is your farm set up for online sales? Do you already ship product online? Or do you offer pre-orders already? Do you sell at an online farmer's market and customers can pre-order from your farm already? If so, this might be a really good fit. The benefit is that when someone visits your Facebook page, they can see what products you're offering, they can see the prices, and they can order from you directly if they're inclined. Another cool feature here is that you can actually tag products and photos. So if Natalie took a photo of me harvesting our butterhead lettuce, we could tag that lettuce in the photo, and someone could then click on that tag and buy the lettuce through our Facebook business page, right after seeing the photo. Next slide. So to get started with listing products on Facebook, first you have to set up an e-commerce website. And so there's going to be, some time and, dollar expense here getting that set up. There are a lot of different e-commerce platforms to choose from. I've had experience with Shopify and Squarespace. We use Shopify for our general store, and then I used Squarespace to set up an e-commerce site for our farm for pre-orders. Both platforms work really well. They're on the higher end when it comes to cost. And there are some other options here for you to consider. WordPress, Weebly, and Wix are some of them. Generally it's going to cost you $20 to $30 a month. So you need to think, does this monthly cost justify an increase in sales? Are you going to see the sales to justify spending that much on an e-commerce site? But it might work for your farm. Next slide. So if you go ahead and set up that e-commerce website for your farm, then you can go into Facebook and list your products. And to get there, you're going to click that shop button on the left-hand menu of your farm Facebook page. And then you'll go in and click add product, upload a photo, write a description, and create a price. And you'll actually link to your e-commerce site. So when someone clicks the buy button under a product you list on your Facebook page, it's going to direct them to the e-commerce site where they'll complete the purchase and provide their credit card information and provide a payment. One thing that's really important here is that you have clear quantities descriptions in your product description so people know how much they're buying. It's also important that you have clear instructions for shipping or pickup, depending on the option there. If someone's going to pre-order and then pick up from you at a farmer's market or pick up at a designated location, it's really important that it's very clear where and when they're going to get the products from you. But I would say if you're interested in getting started with this, experiment with a few popular items and see how it goes, before you invest a whole lot of time in listing every single farm product you have. Next slide.
Okay, it's Lauren again, and we're going to wrap up briefly by talking about a tool you can use to manage different social media accounts. For us, we have Facebook and Instagram, and it can get overwhelming at times to manage both accounts, post to both accounts, and it can be a little bit redundant. So there's a few tools that have developed that help you streamline your posting so that you're not having to log into a ton of different social media accounts. We like Facebook and Instagram. That's the pair that works best for us, but you should explore and go back and watch the first webinar that Luke and I did a few weeks ago talking about the different social media accounts and which ones might be right for you. So these social media management tools can get a little bit complicated. For many folks, they're designed for big businesses that sell things online and ship throughout the country. So they aren't exactly one size fits all for a farm business, but they're still very useful. My only caveat is just don't get overwhelmed. You can really fall down a rabbit hole researching all these different management tools, trying to figure out which one is best for you. Some of them are a little expensive, so just don't get overwhelmed and kind of dip your toe in and figure out what might work best for you. Next slide. The one that we use and that I think is the most straightforward and intuitive, especially if you aren't a social media pro, is Buffer, B-U-F-F-E-R. You can find it at www.buffer.com. And you can link any of those social media accounts you see in that screenshot: Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Google, Instagram, and Pinterest. So if you do have all of these, then Buffer is a great tool because it'll help you do one post, and then Buffer will push out that post through all of those social media accounts at the time that you schedule it to post. It's very easy to set up. You just create an account in Buffer, and then you log into each of your social media accounts through Buffer, And it also has a cell phone app so that you can do things on the go, make adjustments to post new things. Next slide. There's a few others that I have heard some people have success with. I don't personally have any experience with these. Sprout Social, Hootsuite, Bird Eye, and Tailwind. Tailwind I've heard is great because there's an app that's really easy to use. So that's something you might want to just download on your smartphone and kind of play around with when you've got a few minutes to check it out. Most of these have a free service that's very basic, and then they're going to try and offer you additional paid upgrades for more advanced services such as analytics or more advanced posting. I think the free service works just fine for us and what we're trying to accomplish, but if you want to try out the paid services, some of them are relatively cheap, like 20, 30 bucks per month, maybe getting into the $50 to $100 range for much more in-depth services. So that's something to think about. How much are you willing to pay to have this program manage your social media and give you insight? Next slide. There's a link again for where to find that workbook, and the workbook talks a little bit about managing multiple social media accounts. You can jot down that link, and I'll let Luke tell you a little bit about AFRI publications.
Thanks, Lauren. We have hundreds of publications on sustainable agriculture topics on our AFRI website, and a lot of publications specifically on farm marketing, and also social media marketing and farm branding. So you can find all these publications on our website at atra.ncat.org. And as I mentioned before, our recorded webinars are all posted at atra.ncat.org/video, where you'll find this one, our previous webinar, and our future webinars on social media marketing. Next slide. If you have any follow-up questions after the webinar, feel free to email us at askanag@ncat.org, or you can call our toll-free hotline at 1-800-346-9140. We also have a Spanish language hotline at 1-800-411-3222, where you can reach us. Thanks again for joining us for this webinar, and we're going to take your questions at this time.
Yes, thank you, Luke and Lauren. We have had a few questions come in. Once again, as a reminder, if you have any questions about the content today, you can type those into your questions box, and we will ask Luke and Lauren. And if we don't have time for your question, we will follow up with you after the webinar. Okay, Lauren, this first question I think you can hopefully answer. Do you know, is it possible to go back to a previously designed business page and edit content?
Absolutely, and it's really easy. You can change the name, I'm pretty sure. I think you can also change the username. And if you want to start fresh, you can certainly delete the old one and create a new one. But if you want to just update and revamp the page, it's very easy and straightforward to do that. Facebook should give you some nice prompts or give you options to edit things in the settings portion of your business page.
Okay, thank you. And next question, and Luke will send this to you. The question is, I've read that boosted posts are much less effective than targeted ads. Any thoughts?
So with a boosted post, you are able to target your audience as well. I'm not familiar with Facebook preferring one or the other. My understanding is that they're equally effective if all factors are equal. So if you take a post and you spend the same amount of money you would spend on an ad, you target the same audience, that you're going to see similar effect. That's my understanding of it. And a lot of it's really about targeting the right demographic, and having enough of a budget to really see an effect from either a boosted post or a promotion.
Okay, thanks. Luke, this question will be for you as well. On selling on Facebook, can you put inventory countdowns on the Facebook site? For example, only 2 more crates left of strawberries, or only 3 more pounds of hamburger meat?
Yeah, so what you could do there is create a post that mentions that. You know, if you have only 2 more pounds of ground beef that you need to sell, you could create a post that mentions that and then tags the product. So when it comes to inventory management, that's where that is going to depend on the e-commerce platform you use. And most e-commerce platforms have built-in inventory management. You know, for sure, Shopify and Squarespace do, which, you know, I know that because I've used them. I'm not familiar with the other options, but most will give you inventory management tools. So when it comes to you actually managing how much inventory you have on hand, you're going to want to look for an e-commerce platform that has that capability.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to take one last question here, and for those of you who have entered questions in, like I said, we'll definitely follow up after the webinar to get all of these answered. But Lauren, this last question will be for you, and I know we talked about this in the first webinar, so I'll reference that, but if you could just briefly touch on any advice on managing possible trolls or difficult folks on your Facebook page.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite topics. Of course, you know, raising livestock, there is the whole aspect of slaughtering them. And so from time to time, we do get very impassioned vegetarians coming to our social media accounts and saying all sorts of things. So it's something I've had to deal with quite a bit. The workbook covers it extensively, and so does the last webinar we did. But respond in a professional way. I think it's always good to respond and to not leave the comment hanging out there, to say, you know, thank you for your feedback, or to say, you know, I respect a diversity of opinions. And then I try and diffuse it as quickly as I can. And if I can't diffuse it by saying, you know, okay, I respect your opinion, we take a lot of pride in our standards of animal welfare, something like that, I try and move it to a private message at least. So there isn't like 15 messages going back and forth on the Facebook business page. That's not something you want. And if you can't get this person to leave you alone and they're really just harassing you, there is a way to block people on Facebook so that they can no longer comment or even see your Facebook business page.
All right, and as Lauren mentioned, she does go into more detail about that on our previous webinar, which is available on our AFRI website and in the workbook, which you can download. I just want to thank you all for participating in today's webinar. As a reminder, this webinar will be posted on the AFRI website along with that previous webinar. Also be on the lookout for information about additional upcoming webinars on related topics. Please complete the survey as you exit the webinar, and thank you again for joining us.